Hello all, Knife Tale here, with a knife review. Surprise, surprise, it's kind of in the name. And this is the Civivi Hadros, designed by Dylan Mallory. This is a very dramatic knife. I don't know if this is a knife that really performed or sold well for them because it's such a unique knife, and there's some quirks about this one. Quite a few quirks. I definitely think that a V2 that's changed a little bit could be really nice. But we'll get to that after we get through the specs. Blade length, 3 3/8. Handle length, 7 5/8. Or overall 7 5/8, sorry about that. And the handle length is about 4 1/4. The ratios on that aren't terrible for length to blade to length. blah, 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 blah. Blade to handle ratio. Let's get that in there. I'm a little higher up on the camera, I think. Yeah, you can see the top of this thing here. Tell me if that works, if it's too far or anything like that. Comparisons, also by Civivi Elementum. Small, Conspirator, full size, medium. It falls firmly in between them. I mean, almost perfectly in between them. You got a good bit more cutting length, cutting edge, but blade length overall than the Elementum. Though the handle is not that much larger. It really does fall in the middle here. And, of course, while the closed position does offer quite a bit of thickness, or height, it's not really as tall as the Elementum with the flipper tab. So it's pretty small overall. And thickness, it is thicker than the Elementum. But I don't think it is as thick. No, it's about as thick. Maybe a little tiny bit thinner than the Conspirator. Let's check that right now with the calipers. Handle thickness, 474 thousandths. I think the Conspirator's, yeah, just over half an inch, so it is thinner. It honestly looked closer than that. Interesting. 118, so about 120 thousandths. Pretty standard for Civivi, pretty thin, slicey. Now this is going to be a pain in the butt because this thing has a very small edge bevel and comes down very thin. 10 thousandths. 11 thousandths behind the edge on this knife. Am I slipping down? I am slipping down. Okay. So it's 11 or 12 thousandths, let's just call it that. It's very thin. It is hollow ground. It is a Wharncliffe blade shape. That is 100% all day Wharncliffe, straight edge, long drop. This is a utility cutting monster. This thing is just, yeah. But we're getting to blade shape and stuff before we're done, even with specs. Weight. 2.54 ounces. So you've got more than an ounce an inch for the weight on this thing. It's small. The handle is very slim. Moving to hardware. T8. T8. T8, everything. Yes. Even on a small knife. See, this is what a T8 looks like when it's on a small screw. It still works. It's still fine. It's not the deepest tooled T8 ever. But this is fine. I like this. Why can we not do T8 on everything? Oh, and because I tossed it into the... I'm going to try something a little different. Just a general comparison. 2 AA batteries. If you don't happen to know the comparison for the other knives, pretty close to the handle length on this thing. A bit more than the blade length. So if that helps you kind of figure out how you can hold this thing and grab it and stuff like that, who knows? Okay. So what are we looking at? We got a liner lock in traditional Civivi fashion. Tiny, tiny little lettering. 10CR. Not my favorite steel, but 10CR is certainly not 8CR. It's actually pretty surprisingly good and acceptable as a budget steel. I think it's pretty close to, what, VG10 is it? Something like that. It's pretty acceptable. I have no problems with that. Especially at this price. There's your Mallory logo, and as Civivi fashion, the logo's on the pivot, and everything else is completely sterile. Which, again, always love to see. You got thumb studs for the actuation that work very well as I slip off them. As is traditional, I think. Hello, dog. You've got micarta. It's not the most amazing micarta. Civivi's micarta is just so-so overall. They have done some really, really good ones like the Sokoke. But this is just an average sort of... It's an okay, it's a good micarta. It gives some nice feel, but it's not bad. It's nothing great, nothing bad. There's weight reduction in there. Standoffs. As you can see, this has a pocket clip that looks a little bit weird because the standard pocket clip that comes with this knife, well, that's a big flaw. In fact, that's the flaw with this, one of the main flaws with this knife. The standard pocket clip, in my opinion, was uncomfortable. It was a deep carry clip. This is one of the like $10 or $12 titanium pocket clips that you can get off of Amazon, which I will link if you didn't know these existed, for Civivi knives, and they also work on a few other assorted knives you have to check, but they have different lengths. In fact, I have another one right here. They're just sort of popsicle pocket clips that aren't deep carry, but they are comfortable. They are very nicely done. They work well. Pretty decent tension on them. Yeah. So I changed it out as soon as I got it because it was just sort of, no thank you. With this pocket clip, even though it kind of looks like it's a weird angle, it's actually very comfortable. You can feel the pocket clip a little bit, but I mean, on such a small handle, that's inevitable. It's comfortable in my hand. In both grips, honestly. You have to sort of move around a little bit for the push grip, but I can get it and be comfortable. There's a few positions I can go to for that. Up there, too. Still not on the edge. So, yeah. This pocket clip works. The original one just kind of doesn't. We've got a liner lock with a little bit of access. As you can see, it stands a little proud. I kind of wish there was a little bit more, but it honestly, you can come from the side. It is a little bit tight. Did I mention that this is... Yeah, I mentioned that this is hollow ground. Yeah, it's not only thin, but it's a slicer. It performs, it does. It's a striking design, this whole long, thin sort of... I don't know. I mean, the blade's thicker than the handle, or taller than the handle, not thicker. The stop pin, while it is technically back here, hits up there at the juncture between where the tang primarily sits, and there's a name for this. Ricasso? The area right behind the edge, the transition. Yeah. Kind of sits more behind on this one. I think that's the right term. So it doesn't get near the blade edge, which means you can do whatever you want. The plunge grind is not bad. It's sort of here. It does get a little close, but again, you can cut in the chore. You can do whatever you want to this thing. Honestly, with how thin it is and how thin it's going to probably stay, I wouldn't even necessarily change this from 20 degrees per side. There's really no reason when it's this thin. You're not going to go up that fast. You're going to get some life out of it. And it probably won't even start looking bad until you get up to like here. So this one's fine. This is more than acceptable. Especially for a budget knife, which this is. One thing I will say, the slow roll is not the most satisfying. The thumb studs, while they work well, not super comfortable for the slow roll in my hands. Yeah. The one issue with this one is mine came pretty well off center. And there's nothing I can do about it. The blade is mostly centered. It's a grind thing. I mean, that can certainly happen on a... you can kind of see it, honestly. It's definitely deeper on this side. That can certainly happen on a hollow ground blade. There's more room for error. At this price point, on this knife, it doesn't bother me that much. Like, if I push this thing all the way over here, yeah, I'm centered now, but the blade is way off center. That might be a thing. It might be a quirk. I mean, at budget territory, even for Civivi, you're always going to get hiccups and stuff like that. Everything else on the knife is fine. Now, I mentioned a V2 of this, and I'd personally like to see a slightly larger version. Make it a little bit larger, make it just a little bit taller, just the blade too, just increase everything the same amount. You can make it a little bit taller while cutting in a little bit more here, but it would still have that slim look because the blade will stay the same ratios, just equal increase overall. I think that would make this thing much better. It might even make the standard pocket clip viable. Oh, hit the camera. As it is, it's still a good functional work knife. It's just, it's thin, so it's not going to be for everyone, right? It's not, that certainly doesn't feel like a heavy-duty user, but since you're going to be spending most of your time in this position with this knife, it's more of a actual user than you might think. So, yeah. I'd just like to see a slightly larger version. Then again, I do like the idea of just long, thin knives. Price point. $45, which is totally reasonable. Totally acceptable, totally reasonable. Now, dog. This is discontinued, but they are still available. A little tight. It is on bearings, but some Civivis are, that's pretty in line with them. They're shake shut. Honestly, I like this knife. Oh, and it has a left mounted position for the carry, though I don't know if I'd want to be... Actually, that works pretty well. So, lefties, yeah, that's actually not bad. Okay. There could have been a front flipper here. There is not. It's fine. Overall, I really do like this, and I like the striking look of it. I kind of tend to go for interesting looking knives. If they're not going to be just pure beat the crap out of knives, or use and sharpen a lot knives. I like knives that are quintessential knife, but I also like knives that are not. This is one of those, and I really do kind of hope they do a slightly larger variant where they just scale up everything a little bit to make it a bit more friendly and approachable to everyone. As is, though, it's a nasty little claw. And I like it, and I would say that maybe consider... I'm going to destroy this real soon. I'd consider picking it up. Why are you on top of a box, dog? I was wondering what he was doing. It was getting distracting. He's on top of a box. Okay. You can stay there. Sure. Oh well. I might have to do that dog review. Little fruit bat. He's crazy. Yes, you're just silly. Well, before I get any more distracted, I'm going to call things here. This is a surprisingly straightforward knife for what it looks like. And if you want to make that little, like, $10 extra investment on a $45 knife, it's quite usable and pretty decent. That's all for me. Thanks for watching.